My friend, I have a question. Have you ever lay in bed at 2 a.m. and that voice in your head has been torturing you with like the time you said you too to that waitress when she bought you that meal, and then it says, see, no wonder that girl never rang you back because you're an incompetent. And then it just goes off on this whole thing and has loads of digs, and before you know it, you're beating yourself up in your head like Ike. Have you ever done that? I mean, tell me, it's from me being a child. I remember when the first time that voice spoke to me and it said, be careful. And I was like, who are you? Do you know what I mean? Because I was intensely curious. I was like, oh, where did this come from? It wasn't here before. And I asked a friend of mine on the playground about it, and he was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I kept it in my mind. And it really, really made me think. Then I discovered a very interesting glitch, and that is schizophrenics will not hallucinate in my presence. Now, did you know that these people are the only ones in the realm that do not fall for optical illusions? Marinate on that. Let it sink in. Here we have a clique that to a man, no matter their level of intellect, education, race, station, whatever, from James Tilley up until the present moment, every single one of them has said that there's something tampering with their head, and things that were previously invisible are now being seen by them. You ever been in a room by yourself and felt like you're being stared at? You ever watch your cat suddenly stop grooming and track something invisible that walks across out of one wall and through the next? What about that time when your dog starts barking for no reason whatsoever? How about a perfectly warm summer's day and all of a sudden you feel a chill? You ever been walking along and are convinced you've walked into a spider's web, and when you reach out your hand there's nothing there on your face? All of these are hints, my friend. I'm telling you right now, we are being fed upon by a predator of consciousness. It extracts loosh, which is depression, sadness, fear, grief. That's why all these 1%ers, they're all in the child abuse game. That's how they get paid. And it's another topic when it comes in how to graduate from here, because there's only two ways to leave, really. Well, there's only one way to leave, really, but graduation is a different thing. The only way you get out of here is by returning to that non-zero state, which means we all win or we all lose together, because there's only one consciousness here. So you either comprehend that and melt your snowman and ascend like the steam that came in, because there's no ice cubes getting out the gate, my friend. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen at all. Now, there's something interesting, because it seems, like Nietzsche said, that God is dead, and I strongly suspect that he got slept in the Clash of the Titans, but that's another topic, because I'm trying to keep it simple before we get into the abstract metaphysics of what spins overhead and the influence they have on your awareness. But you're welcome to check it. You ask anyone like who works security at a club or a nurse, and they'll always tell you that full moons bring the lunatics out. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Now, getting back to what I told you about the schizophrenics, one of the most interesting things they ever told me was how they can tell 10 out of 10 when either someone's faking or they just had a bad drug trip and got clinked and then filled full of pills. That's what fascinated them with me and me with them, because they were like, inside you're one of us, but outside you're one of them. They all wanted to know my secret so they could escape from the Bing. And I told them, I said, listen, this is just the way I'm born, it's the way I'm made. I didn't know back then about the whole SRA thing, because I was completely ignorant of what kicked. But I do strongly suspect that there's much more to this than many comprehend. Now, getting back on topic, if you are not that voice in your head and that which listens, why doesn't it say nice things? Let me show you something which is akin to hacking the matrix, and it proves that everything is not what they say in reality is actually plastic. Next time you get that thought in your head which says X, Y, and Z, and it makes you feel stressed, you turn around and you use this spell. The word is injoiful. You say, enjoyful heart, Thank you for the part that you play in creating my reality. What you have just sent, I reject. I would prefer instead something that makes me grin and makes me the best version of who I am. See what happens. You keep doing this again and again and again, and it's akin to training your own internal algorithm. Now, the predator consciousness will not like this because its whole aim is to keep you away from heart-centered consciousness. It exists in the left hemisphere of your brain, and the right is where creativity once reigned. This is why I remember I said you can't remember how it felt being sprawled out on the floor and drawing away. You can't replicate that state because they isolated you from it. This is what I mean about sentient snowmen. Read the article, What is the Matter with Spirit, where I go into that. Now, stress prevents you from melting because, like I said, people will fight to remain enslaved because all they know is the game and what the game programmed them to be. Like I told you a couple of videos back, how many times have you died, lived, died, came back again and done all the same things? How would you even know? How could you tell? I mean, let's pretend Jesus came back today and he steps on the stage, right? Half of the world are going to want to kill him for not looking how they expect. The other half of the world are going to kill him for what he says. And the third half of the world will come up with whatever reason they can to kill him. Now, you may think that my math stinks, but 1 + 1 is actually 3 because there is a space, there is air, there is opportunity. And it's not only this, 1 + 1 can also equal 11 as well. Do you see what I mean about the creative aspect from that you've been hemmed off from? Why don't you think like this? Because you thunk. You learned how to accept this square watermelon effect like I told you in the other vid. You are so powerful, my friend. You are a God wearing flesh. You are immortal. And I know this because I am. And if I am, you must be too. Because I put my pants on one leg at a time anyway, so I'm no different to you. You know what I mean? Now, it's lonely as heck where I'm at because I'm the only one that thinks like this. So let's kickstart an involution across the planet and up the wavelength because then, let's make it interesting because all they're going to give you is war, rage, and conflict because they need to keep the predator fed. All right? It's a case of here's your loneliness, we'll take it away with some pills, and if that ain't working, here's some robots to sex. Why don't you become your own best friend instead of your own opponent? I mean, ain't you playing a game of let's pretend I'm John of House Smith with that voice in your head? When's the last time you tried challenging it? This is something that was like tacit in every single schizophrenic. At one point, before they flipped, they realized, hang on a second, I'm not this voice. This voice isn't saying nice things. And then they went and bought in reinforcements and they got some depot injections in the rear end and you know how all that went. This is what was so amazing because these people bared their souls to me. They told me the truth of how it is and I gave them questions that they answered. For example, there was a girl who hallucinated and she was short-sighted. So I said, what happens if you take off your glasses? And she was like, I never thought about that. And she tried it. She goes, the hallucinations are in perfect focus, whereas the other things aren't. And I was like, well, there you go. There was a dude who hallucinated a pet and I gave him a notepad and pen. And I said, I want you to take this away and every day write down a description of your pet. And he goes, why? And I said, just do it. I'd spotted something he hadn't, and that is the creature constantly shifted in appearance. Once he started writing it down, he could see what he wasn't seeing. You know what I mean? And that's what I call transcending reality, because I strongly suspect each and every one of us is hallucinating, because long, long ago, one flew over the cuckoo's nest, the inmates took over the asylum and made this place crazy as hell. And it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a society that is profoundly sick. Consider the concept of money. Money, if you don't have it, your life will be exceedingly difficult. But if you've got it, doesn't mean you're going to grin. But isn't that just a hallucination that we decide what these abstract slips of paper are actually worth, and then we trade our lives for them? This is the work by, consume, die mindset, and we'll unwrap it in the next vid. Till we meet again.